I have 3 dictionaries in my house. One was copyrighted in 1828, one was copyrighted in 1959, and one was copyrighted in 1988. Shockingly, nowhere in any of these dictionaries are the terms non-binary or trans man or trans woman. Even if you look on Webster today, you just Google Webster, it says that trans man and trans female are terms that were first used in 1996. During the entire history of mankind, you were either male or female until the last few years.
The dictionary. He is pretending like trans people didn't exist in all of human history because certain terms weren't created yet. This is disingenuous business. I guess I never dapped anyone up until this year, seeing how the word was just added to the dictionary in 2023. Shout out to you, Air Fryer. Feel seen. The Republican-led House passed a bill Thursday that will bar federally supported schools and colleges from allowing transgender athletes whose biological sex assigned at birth was male to compete on girls' or women's sports teams. The legislation, approved by a 219 to 203 vote, is unlikely to advance further because the Democratic-led Senate will not support it, and the White House said President Joe Biden would veto it, per ABC News. The measure would change the civil rights law known as Title IX to require that a student's sex be, quote, based on an individual's reproductive biology and genetics at birth. We'll get back to Title IX in a minute. Supporters said the legislation, which would put violators at risk of losing taxpayer dollars, is necessary to ensure competitive fairness. Now, this bill was sponsored by Representative Greg Steube of Florida, whom was shown in the opening clip. And, if you were wondering, yes, he is. Anyways, here's part of how he's justifying this bill.
In my own district in Sarasota, Florida, my constituent Emma Wyant, an incredibly talented swimmer and Olympic medalist, lost the 2022 NCAA Women's Swimming Championships title for the 500 freestyle by 1.75 seconds to a man who formerly competed for years on the men's swimming team, who took home the title after identifying as a woman. It's a sad day in America when the Democrats have regressed so far backwards that they are willing to erase the rights that women have fought decades to obtain, all to elevate biological males to the top of women's podiums.
Emma Wyant is an amazing athlete. In her debut season at the University of Virginia, before she transferred to the University of Florida, Wyant finished second in the 500-yard freestyle at the 2022 NCAA Division I Women's Swimming and Diving Championships. With her time of 4 minutes and 34 seconds, just under 35, ranking as her career best, she lost to Leah Thomas. Almost beat her though. Steube said there's websites featuring hundreds of instances of cis women losing to trans women, yet we hear about Leah Thomas the most. I'm wondering, between grade school and college, how many trans athletes are even out there? I mean, we only hear about the one.
Just for reference, if you're focused on college, there are only 32 trans athletes participating at a collegiate level. Now, I'm terrible at math, but let's just do some casual estimation here. Let's be generous here and say that there's 20 total students in each of the 20 states that have passed this type of legislation. That would be 400 people total. If you add the populations of those 20 states, you get around 117 million people. So let's get this straight. These 20 states have spent hours, if not weeks, or in Kansas's case, years, debating and pushing for legislation that targets, let's see, 0.0003% of their total population.
I'm not even going to make the argument about how often trans women are actually taking away medals and spots on a podium from cis women. Oh, and Steube cited a biblical scripture about God creating male and female. However, people who do that never mention gender. Who created that? And how God can be a man, he is, while being spirit. He doesn't have genitals, chromosomes, or gametes. Anyways, enacted in 1972, Title IX prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in educational programs or activities that receive federal funding. It was created to ensure equal opportunity for participation and open the door for more women to participate in sports. The Biden administration proposed a rule change to Title IX on April 6 that would prohibit schools from banning transgender athletes from playing on teams consistent with their gender identities, with exceptions possible for the highest levels of competition. The U.S. Supreme Court on April 6 refused to let West Virginia enforce a state law banning transgender athletes from female sports teams at public schools, one of many Republican-backed measures across the country targeting LGBTQ rights. Seems like there are more anti-trans bills than trans athletes.
I got something to show y'all. So for the NCAA March Madness, the biggest tournament in college basketball for women, this is our weight room. Let me show y'all the men's weight room.
This is Sedona Prince, an athlete on the women's basketball team at Oregon whose video has gone viral, pointing out the gross inequality of how women and male athletes are treated during the huge March Madness competition. The men have a state-of-the-art, expansive weight room, and the women are given a small stack of hand weights and some sanitized yoga mats. The NCAA has made a statement acknowledging the discrepancy, apologizing, but chalking it up to a matter of limited space and resources. Well, Sedona debunked that myth pretty quick.
Let me show y'all something else. Here's our practice court, right? And then here's that weight room. And then here's all this extra space.
Representative Tulsi Gabbard and many GOP leaders have spoken out about the importance of women's competitive sports.
Title IX is a historic provision to make sure that women and girls have equal opportunities, especially as it relates to competitive sports.
So Tulsi should be pretty upset about what's going on, but no, not a peep from her about this viral video, proving that the extreme right has never really cared about women's competitive sports and have been using the issue as a facade because of the push to expand Title IX to include sexual orientation and gender identity as protected classes. Protecting women's competitive sports has been an excuse by the extreme right to promote fear-mongering, transphobia, bigotry, and dehumanization of our transgender community.
Biological boys are going to start playing in girls' sports.
Not only will they be on her playing field that she has to compete against them, they will be in her locker room, they will be in her showers, they will be in her bathroom, they will be in her hotel room when she travels with her team.
Title IX does not reference or deal with transgender individuals.
As it will put trans rights above women's rights.
Will it though? Isn't being inclusive and accepting a good thing for our country? Well, not according to this propaganda fear-mongering video from the Christian organization PragerU.
First graders are being taught that just because someone looks like a boy doesn't mean they are. Only they can know who they truly are. Gender is something they choose for themselves, based on how masculine or feminine they feel. Or maybe they're not fully a boy or a girl, but something in between. Whatever that may be. That they should constantly question their sexual identity. No wonder today's kids have more psychological problems than any previous generation.
More mental health issues than ever? Or are we simply speaking publicly about mental health issues more in this day and age? What do you think it does to teach your children to question and bully kids based on their hair length, dress, or identity? What do you think that does for their mental health? According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, half of transgender boys and almost 30% of transgender girls contemplate suicide. So I'm not sure saying things like, whatever that means, is going to do anything to combat mental health issues or cut down suicide rates. And Tulsi Gabbard says that transgender people storming into women's competitive sports is a huge problem. And she has a solution. Just keep them out completely.
A high school student who wrote me yesterday is concerned. So I introduced science-based legislation called the Protect Women's Sports Act that clarifies, upholds, and strengthens the original intent of Title IX. It ensures a level playing field for girls and women competing in sports.
Will you cite any examples where a young woman was denied a scholarship opportunity or a title here in Arizona?
I can't at this point.
So there are none in Georgia.
We don't have hard statistics on that.
It is the height of hypocrisy.
I don't know of any personally in Tennessee.
It is the height of hypocrisy.
How many instances have we had of trans females competing in women's sports?
To my knowledge, none.
Just face it. Nobody is changing their gender identity just to compete in women's sports. It is a decision that affects every single aspect of their life. And the right has simply used anecdotal examples to induce fear and anger towards the transgender community. But they just want it to be fair. Right, Tulsi?
They want to make sure that their daughters can continue to pursue the sport that they love on a level playing field.
A level playing field. That's exactly what this concerned father, Brandon Boulware, wants for his young transgender daughter when he gave this very emotional speech at the Missouri House of Representatives.
I'm a husband. I'm the father of 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, including a wonderful and beautiful transgender daughter. For years, I would not let my daughter wear girl clothes. I did not let her play with girl toys. I forced my daughter to wear boy clothes and get short haircuts, play on boy sports teams. My child was miserable. I cannot overstate that. She was absolutely miserable, especially at school. No confidence, no friends, no laughter. I honestly say this, I had a child who did not smile. We did that for years. We did that against the advice of teachers, therapists, and other experts. I remember the day everything changed for me. I'd gotten home from work and my daughter and her brother were in the front lawn. And my daughter had sneaked on one of her older sister's play dresses. And they wanted to go across the street and play with the neighbor's kids. I said no. She asked me if she went inside and put on boy clothes, could she then go across the street and play? And it's then that it hit me that my daughter was equating being good with being someone else. I was teaching her to deny who she is. As a parent, the one thing we cannot do, the one thing, is silence our child's spirit. And so on that day, my wife and I stopped silencing our child's spirit. The moment we allowed my daughter to be who she is, to grow her hair, to wear the clothes she wanted to wear, she was a different child. And I mean, it was immediate. It was a total transformation. I now have a confident, a smiling, a happy daughter. She plays on a girls' volleyball team. She has friendships. She's a kid. I came here today as a parent to share my story. I need you to understand that this language, if it becomes law, will have real effects on real people. It will affect my daughter. It will mean she cannot play on the girls' volleyball team or dance squad or tennis team. I ask you, please don't take that away from my daughter or the countless others like her who are out there. Let them have their childhoods. Let them be who they are.